Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my Speedroid deck profile. Now Speedroid is a deck that I really enjoy, and I think it's a very cool deck, and I wanted to share with you my update because I really, like I said, enjoy this deck. But before we jump right into the deck list itself, there are two things I want to say. The first one is the reason why I don't upload as frequently as I want to, and the reason why there are kind of just no updates recently is because I'm extremely busy right now, and like I will be only free in like about a month. So unfortunately that's kind of eating into my own personal life if I'm doing YouTube too much, and I rather not do that because my own personal life, there are some particular things that I rather take care of. But the other thing that of course I'm going to say to you is the usual thing, that if you want to join the channel is completely up to you, and I will muchly appreciate if you'll hit that subscribe button, give a like to the video, and let me know in the comments, well, if you prefer to play Auroradon or not. I will let you guess if I play it in this list, but it's basically something that I just want to hear from people in the comments, what they prefer to do with their Speedroid list. But without further ado, let's jump right into the list itself. Alright, starting things off with the deck list itself, we're going to start things off with the, well, 3 starters, I guess, or 7 starters of the Speedroid strategy, which is 3 copies of Marble Machine, 3 copies of Ultra Hound, and the 1 copy of Terratop. These are very important cards that are basically, like I said, the starters of your deck. They are very good. And, well, I would say the best one, of course, is Terratop, by far, and there's a reason why it's limited, but both of these are still very good if you open up with them. They're not bad cards, they're good one-card combos that can still both get you into double interruptions, so that is completely fine. Now in the case of Ultra Hound, I should stress this, that the first effect on normal summon is not a hard once per turn. I kind of was surprised by that, so if you open up with 2 of these, you can technically use Marble Machine effect to normal summon the second one if you need it, although I don't think you will go with that route, but if you need to, you have the option there. In the case of Marble Machine, its effect is a hard once per turn, so do keep that in mind. This first effect is not a hard once per turn, surprisingly. The effect Engrave is the hard once per turn, so yeah, it's pretty important. But yeah, these are your starters, very good. Also Ultra Hound, very good follow-up with its Grave effect, so keep that in mind when you're playing for the grind game. Now for the Speedroid extenders, 3 Tuckatomborg, which is absolutely the best extender in the deck, 3 Car Turbo, and then the 1 copy of Rubber Band Plane for your Speedroid extenders. Now, in the case of these cards, Rubber Band Plane, I kind of just decided to go back with this rather than Horse Stilts, because I came to the conclusion that this is better overall. First, it's a level 5, which is good if you have something to special summon, and then you just can follow up with this, and then maybe, like, you know, get your Kite Drake immediately online on your side of the field if you're going second, which is very good, so it's good for some synchro manipulations for level 8s and 9s and stuff like that. Secondly, it's also good for the Rubber Band, or should I say Rubber Band Shooter effect, and also it's just another extender, which Horde Stilts wasn't. It's not a bad card, Horde Stilts. If you want Horde Stilts instead of this, that's completely fine, but an extender I felt is a little bit better than another monster for normal summon, so I just decided to go back to this, and I think that works perfectly. Car Turbo is another free special summon if you control a wind, and then its effect Engrave is that you can banish this card from your graveyard and a Speedroid monster, and then all wind monsters you control gain 800 attack until the end of the turn, which is very strong because it's just giving you OTK potential, which is very good. And then Tuckatomborg, a very good card, basically, like I said, the best extender in the deck. You tribute it, and you special summon any wind, or should I say any Speedroid tuner directly from your deck. Unfortunately, you can only special summon it once per turn. Another thing is that you can only basically special summon it, of course, if you control a wind monster. But one thing I would say about this card, which is pretty interesting, which you will see in the final combo that we're going to do in the deck, is that even if you open up with 2 copies of this, you can still combo off, because you can normal summon this and follow it up with a free special summon of this card, because, you know, it's fine. And the second effect, like the special summon from deck, is not a hard once per turn. The effect of a hard once per turn is, or should I say special summon for the hard once per turn is the effect that you can only special summon this card once per turn. So, yeah. If you have 2 of these, you can still combo off, and that is completely fine. But that does it for those, and then for the additional Speedroid monsters that we have to run the double Duke, then we have the double Red Eye Die, which is my own personal preference, which we'll get to it in a second, the one double Yo-Yo, and then the one copy of Piper. Now in the case of Duke, Duke is basically an extender in Grave. It's just able to banish itself in the graveyard to special summon a tuner, Speedroid tuner from your hand or graveyard, which is really good. Red Eye Die is a card that some people like to run as one for the engine requirements, but I came to the conclusion most of the time that I actually need the second, because A, roulette, if I roll it and I'm getting a 1, it's fine, but if I'm getting a 2, it's very, very disappointing that I'm only able to summon only one monster, and I'm just increasing my chances from like 66% to like 80 or so percent, instead of just, you know, rolling a 1 and a 2 and then just get nothing. I'm just risking it that if I'm getting only a 1, I'm getting like only one monster. So I felt like this is better. Also, if you draw into it and you don't have another copy in deck, it's absolutely terrible. Although drawing into 2 of this is also terrible, but I felt like it's less terrible than just drawing into this and doing absolutely nothing. So I do like this card to have it at 2, and I think it's a very, very important card. In the case of double Yo-Yo, it's just an engine requirement. Even if I run auroradon or even if I don't, I think I'm going to run this card regardless, because it's just allowing your extra deck and deck to be very, very flexible for your searches with Rubber Band Shooter, and also just in general, allowing your plays to be a lot more flexible than you might think, so that's why I'm going with double Yo-Yo. And then Piper, just a very, very good card. If you are able to summon it and you have enough monsters on the field, you can activate the top card of your deck up to the number of other wind monsters you control, and then get one of these to your hand, which is pretty nice. And then in Grave, it can banish itself to reduce a monster level by 2, which sometimes I'm using that effect, which is also very, very good. I think this card is better in the auroradon versions, but it's still very, very good even in the decks that don't use auroradon, which is very, very nice. I don't think it's the best card in the deck, but it's definitely very, very good where it comes to you searching for your side deck cards. So it's just good for that. And that does it for our, well, Speedroid monsters. For the additional extenders, unfortunately I have to proxy 2 Griffin Rider, and then the other card that I run is the one copy of Tetherwolf. Tetherwolf is your 8th starter of the deck. I don't run Auroradon, but I still think this card is very, very important, because it's still another normal summon that you can just normal summon, activate its effect, summon a token, and then still go into your Rubber Band Shooter. So I felt like I want 11 starters rather than 10, so I've gone with this one. And then we have the 2 copies of Griffin Rider, which can be either Primitive Butterfly or the Red Hasty Horse. Can still be those, but the reason why Griffin Rider is better is because it's a quick effect free special summon if you control no monsters as well, which is really, really good. And it's also just a free special summon regardless. And it's a level 7, which is good with your card Turbo to immediately go into your, well, Baron, which is just can save you from some particular cases and just stop your opponent from debuting you before you even start your combo. So this card is definitely the superior extender than Primitive Butterfly and Red Hasty Horse. But if this card get banned, which I doubt it will happen, although some people think it will, you can go back into those, it still will be fine. It just, this is a little bit better. And then for our hand traps, I only run 6 in the monster department, which is double Nibiru, double Ash, and double Ghost Ogre, or Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. I felt like these are the most impactful hand traps. I don't want to run 3 of each and every single one of these because I don't want to see them at multiples, but they're still very, very good, and you can just change the hand trap lineup as much as you want to. I think it's kind of depending up to personal preference and what you own. But that does it for the monster lineup. Now we'll move on into the spells. Spells lineup is very short. We have 3 copies of Speed Recovery, 3 copies of Speedroid Wheel, and then the 1 copy of Cold by the Grave. Yes, I don't run Speedroid Scratch. I actually came to the conclusion that Speedroid Scratch is good, but it's not that good for the deck. I do like it, but the problem is with Speedroid Scratch, it's just adding another discard card for the deck, and you technically already have, even if you cut the Tetherwolf, 10 starters, so the additional 3 additional starters or 2 additional starters, however you want to play these, is I don't feel it's really necessary, not to mention the fact that Roulette is the better card, but honestly, it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to add also 1 or 2 copies of Scratch, that's up to you. I just felt just running Roulette has been working really, really well for me, and you just don't really need the Scratch that much, because the idea is you're getting 2 monsters, getting the Rubber Band Shooter, and then the Rubber Band Shooter is still just going to get the monsters that you need anyway if this goes off, so there's really no necessity to go with the what it called, with the, you know, the Speedroid Scratch, but again, up to you. Cold Blooded Grave is Cold Blooded Grave, and Speed Recovery is a monster reborn that a turn later in the graveyard can also be a recovery card, and also both of those effects are not a hard ones per turn. It's just the second effect can only be activated the turn after this card was sent to the graveyard. So you can activate all 3 of these in the same turn, and then the turn later you can activate all 3 graveyard effect of these to recover 3 cards. It's just absolutely amazing. Speed Recovery is an amazing card. And that does it for the spells, and then for the traps, 2 duplicates and 2 infinite impermanents. Infinite Permanence is another hand trap I think just makes sense, because I'm just running 8, I think is a good number. 20% of your deck is hand traps, that's completely fine. And then Duplicate is just a really, really good card. It's what are called a compulse, and it's also a card that just once per duel can banish itself, or I should say not banish itself, but be a level eater, which is very, very good with your Ultra Hound, and is your way to start your plays with Ultra Hound, so I think you need to run this card at 2. You can run this card at 1, and I see some people also run this card at 3, but I think 2 is the correct numbers. You don't see it too much, you don't see it too less, and you can search it whenever you need to. But that does it for the main deck, 40 cards as usual. Now we'll move on into the extra deck, and for the extra deck, we're going to start things off, of course, with the Link monsters, which are the only 2 copies of Rubber Band Shooter that I run. Now, there are some particular builds that I see running only 1 of this, or 1 of this and an auroradon, or 2 of this and an auroradon. Honestly, up to personal preference, what you want to, but I felt most of the time I just need this. Now, the auroradon is something that I did test with, but I felt I didn't test with enough. Not to mention the fact that I think Auroradon is definitely worse when you don't have something like Old Lion, just like in Master Duel, or you don't have like a tuner that you want to summon from deck is actually good, because the tuner options that you have left are not really that amazing. They're not terrible, but they're not that amazing, and they're kind of like really dependent on some particular things. So I felt like Olion is just like a really, really big factor, because Olion is not here in the deck, so, or should I say, like, you know, it's banned in the TCG, so I felt like the Rubber Band Shooter is the only thing I need. Of course, you can say that Auroradon allowing you to play through hand traps, but honestly, it's up to you. And regardless of the situation, I do recommend to run the 2 Rubber Band Shooter, because it's just really, really important to start your plays, or just help you maybe even seal games in turn 3 or 4. But that does it for the links. For the synchros, we'll start with the low level ones, which is 2 Cork Shooter, 1 copy of Hagoita, 1 copy of Chimbara, 1 copy of Stardust Charge Warrior, and 1 copy of Virtual World Beast Juji, or Juju, I think. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Basically, these are your small level synchros that you use for things. Juji is just a removal card, or a card that you just toss for the effect of Rubber Band Shooter to basically search, and the other effect, of course, is the normal summon, which lock you into synchro monsters. But the point is, you just banish this for the 6, reveal 2 level 3 monsters, and then add 1 of these to your hand. This is mostly useful for that, but sometimes you do use its other, like, use it actually as a monster for removal. But like I said, it's mostly here for level 6 plays. Then you have Stardust Charge Warrior, which if you summon it, you draw a card. And it's also have the other effect that it can attack all monsters. So combined with Card Turbo, this is a 2800 that can attack all monsters, which is really good. Chimbara is another card for OTKs and can also recover for you a banished Speedroid monster, so that's fine. You also have Hagoita, which is a very, very important part of your Double Crystal Wings play. And then you have Cork Shooter, which is an absolutely ridiculous card. This card have 2 effects. The first effect is still very, very good, but it's nothing compared to the second one. The first effect says that when this card is synchro summoned, you're able to add from your deck to your hand a 1 Speedroid spell or trap, which will be either Duplicate or Roulette in that case. But the other effect is the better one, and you probably want to resolve it like all the time, and that is you can special summon the 2 materials that you used for it to summon it to your side of the field back, and with their effects intact, which making Red Eye die absolutely ridiculous with this card. This card is only, in my opinion, the level 3 tuner, that, or should I say synchro tuner that you need. You could run March, Metal Marcher, but I think it's just absolutely unnecessary. Then for the rest of the synchro monsters, we have one Wind Pegasus, one Clear Wing Fast Dragon, double Crystal Wing, one Kite Drake, one Shen, and one Baron. In the case of Wind Pegasus Agnister, this card is here because it's backward removal, and because it can also be a removal in your graveyard, because you can just make this part of the combo, send it to the graveyard after you synchro summon it with it, and then go into a Baron with like a level 3 Court Blaster, and then just sit this engrave, and if your opponent remove anything, it's basically just a spin, which is really good. Clear Wing Fast Dragon, not a bad card, and you have a level 7 that you want to banish. This card is a quick negate for every extra deck monster, which is very, very nice. But the other effect of this card is that if it's in the scale, which sometimes happen, you can basically send one face-up monster Speedroid tuner and one face-up monster non-tuner monster you control, which are total are 7. You can just special summon it out of the scale if it's find its way there after it gets destroyed. So it's still a very, very good card that can come back, but mostly, again, it just serves as Juji, as kind of just my banish for level 7, because I sometimes need that. Then double Crystal Wing is monster negation, absolutely mandatory. Kite Drake is your either board wipe, like a Regeki, or a skill drain for the entire field when you summon it, which is very, very good to help you break boards. Shen is just death sentence for graveyard decks, and it's very, very annoying when it comes back every single turn, especially because you have different kinds of hand traps, which are different types and attributes, so it can come back multiple times per game, and it's absolutely annoying for some people to deal with. And then, of course, the absolutely mandatory, in my opinion, Baron. You could make the argument that you can run the Clear Wing Fast Dragon, or should I not Clear Wing, the Clear Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, if you don't have the money for it. But I think if you have the ability to get Baron, is definitely better. If you don't, Clear Wing Crystal Dragon, whatever that called, the level 10 that you got in the set as well, is also an option. I just would recommend to change this into Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, to just giving yourself 2 Clear Wing Synchro Dragons that you can use for the combos to go into that card, although I believe it's definitely worse than the Baron, so keep that in mind. But that does it for the extra deck, and does it for the deck profile as a whole. So yeah, that's pretty much does it for this. Now let's move on into the changes for Master Duel, because the changes of Master Duel kind of change some particular plays for the Master Duel players, because, well, there's a particular card that they have there, but it's not really that significant, but let's talk about it. Alright, so for the Master Duel changes, not really a whole lot. The base thing, of course, is changing hand traps, of course, depending on what you own specifically and what you want to play with. The other thing I would say is, of course, well, the addition of Olion to the main deck, and the addition of Auroradon into the extra deck. Now, of course, you can decide which card you want to cut for Auroradon in your extra deck. I recommend one of the level 6s. I think one of the level 6s is completely, I think it's a little bit better to cut than one of the level 7s, because I'm not really going to the level 6s that much. But anyway, this is basically the option, like you add Auroradon, and you also add Olion, which Olion is absolutely ridiculous in this deck. It's just such a strong card. It's just making your play so much more fluid if you have to go into it and you don't want to use Rubber Band Shooter effect. It just kind of like open up a lot more options that I think without this card do not exist, and Tether Wolf doesn't really give you. So I do recommend you to play around with it and see how that works for you for the Master Duel players. And yeah, that's pretty much does it for the day update. Not really a whole lot for that. Welcome to the combo section. In the combo section, I'm going to share with you few combos that I think are very, very important for you to know playing this deck. Now, one thing I would say is that I'm going to do a combos for kind of like in a variance for each of every single one of the 4 starters of a deck in kind of a way, which will be Marble Machine, Terratop, Ultra Hound, and the Tether Wolf, I believe the name of the Mechafundo Beast monster. I'm going to do for every single one of these their way that you have to play with them, because they're all kind of starters. Now, one thing I would say, I'm going to start, of course, with the Terratop combo, because it's probably the most fun one to do. But I'm going to say that I actually changed this from the previous version that I did on my previous video, because I decided to kind of just leave this less to chance. So the end board and the routes are going to be a little bit different, as you will see. But now let's get started. So to start things off with our first 1-card combo, we're going to special summon Terratop. and we're going to add to our hand the Marble Machine. We're going to use the effect, or should I say normal summon Marble Machine, and use the effect to add to our hand the Tucky Tomborg. And then, since we control a wind, special summon Tuck, use the effect, Tribute, special summon out of our deck the Red Eye Die. Now we're going to use Red Eye Die effect, turn this into a level 2. And then we're going to synchro off into our Cork Shooter. Now, one thing I would say before we'll activate Cork Shooter effect in Grave, which will summon the 2 monsters back, is that there are some people who are probably going to forget about this. For sometimes, it's not because anybody is stupid, it's just sometimes is something that you forget about. If you use Marble Machine, it's going into the extra deck and you can order to revive it back, so you cannot get the effect to get the 2 monsters from the graveyard because this is a Pendulum monster. It happens to me a lot when I actually played with this card, so keep that in mind that this and, well, Tucky Tomborg with his own special summoning effect clause is something that you cannot summon back with the Cork Shooter, so keep that in mind. Regardless, we're not going to use these 2 monsters anymore for anything. We're going to link them immediately into the Rubber Band Shooter. And one thing to mention is that I'm not going to use this card effect because there is really no need to. Now we're going to use the effect of Rubber Band Shooter to banish a 6, which could be either Juji or Stardust Charge Warrior. And we're going to reveal 2 particular monsters that you might actually going to be surprised about. The 2 monsters I actually chose are going to be either Card Turbo or Denden Daikoduke to add to your hand. And the reason why it's so good is that if you add the Card Turbo to your hand, you basically also save us another normal summon if you have another extender, but you basically get the free special summon and then you get still the Denden Daikoduke effect in Grave. And the effect of getting Duke into your hand, you just normal summon the Duke, use it for a synchro plays, and you still have it in Grave to still end up on the same end board and rather leaving it off to chance. Now, if you have other extenders, that's completely fine, but like I mentioned, I don't like to leave these up to chance if I don't have anything else, and especially in set combos, you don't want to do that. So let's say the number 4, 5, 6 is Duke. So we get to our hand the Card Turbo because we got a 2 in our die. And we're going to basically, special summon Card Turbo by its own effect. And now we're going to take Marble Machine and Card Turbo. Marble Machine go into the extra deck, and we're going to get Hagoita out of our extra deck. Now we're going to take these 2, and we're going to synchro summon into our first Crystal Wing. And then we're going to banish our Duke in Grave, which we got it because of the effect of, Band Shooter. We're going to special summon back the Cork Shooter, and we're going to use the Hagoita effect, special summon, and then synchro these both again into your level 8 Crystal Wing, Synchro Dragon, and there you go. So you end up on the double Crystal Wing end board instead of Beroni and a Crystal Wing, which is still not bad, so this is a really, really cool end board. But yeah, that's pretty much does it for combo number 1. Let's move on into combo number 2. Alright, so for the second combo, it's actually require a little bit of explanation because all of these 3 cards, 3 starters that we have in the deck, which we have 7 of them overall, including all copies, are basically going to end you on the same end board. It just, every single one of them is going to do something different. In a case of Marble Machine, in order to basically get into the Rubber Band Shooter, that will start you the combo. This is the card that actually started the combo overall. It's just you need to get 2 monsters. Basically, this is the card that started. So in the case of Marble Machine, we get the card Turbo as our extender. In the case of Ultra Hound, we're going to send Duplicate to the graveyard as our extender to then special summon it out of our graveyard to eat a level and give us the second monster that we need. In the case of Tetherwolf, we just summon a token because that's what happened when it's normal summon. So all of these starters are going to end you on the same end board. I'm just going to say this right now. It just really depends. These are the cards that you want to use as their extensions when you use them. Tetherwolf is definitely the best one to basically use, kind of, because it just doesn't proc Ash, but it's also make the opponent save Ash for later, so there are some particular plays in that. But for this particular example, I'm actually going to use Ultra Hound because I just like Ultra Hound the best. So, let's get started. So to start things off, we're going to normal summon the Ultra Hound, and we're going to use the effect to send this to the graveyard. And then we're going to use Duplicate effect to eat a level and come as a tuner level 1. And then we're going to use these 2 into the link summon of Rubber Band Shooter. Rubber Band Shooter effect, we're going to banish a 7 out of our extra deck, which will be Clear Wing Fast Dragon, and we're going to reveal Double Yo-Yo and Terratop. Now, it doesn't matter which one of these our opponent add to our hand. It just means that if they add the Double Yo-Yo to our hand, it just means that we're going to end up on another body in defense on our side of the field, or in attack, depending on how you leave it on your side of the field. So in this particular case, we're just going to go with the worst case scenario, and we're going to just grab the Terratop. So we're going to special summon the normal summon the Terratop with the effect of Rubber Band to getting an additional normal summon, and again add to our hand the Taketom board. We're now going to use Talk effect, special summon, and then tribute itself to special summon the Red Eye die. Now this turned this into a level 2, and we're going to synchro summon into our level 3 Cork Shooter. Cork Shooter effect, we're going to revive both of our monsters from the graveyard, and then use the effect of Red Eye die to turn our Terratop into a level 6. Why is that important? Well, it's also allowing us to synchro once again before we go into the Baron into our copy of Wind Pegasus Adgnister, and then take Wind Pegasus and the Cork Shooter into the Link summon of the Baron, which giving us one card, well, 2 interruptions, because this is an interruption in grave if our opponent remove anything, and this is an Omni Negate. Now, if you are forced to use the Omni Negate before, you still have the ability to shuffle this during the standby phase, and basically maybe get yourself another search for something due to the effect of it, and you can just summon a Terratop and get a search, which is not bad, I would say. It's just like if you are forced to do that, that's a little bit of a shame, but it is what it is. Like I said, this combo can be achieved either using by Tether Wolf or Mower Machine again, which is very, very important, and I need to stress this. It just means that with Mower Machine you add the card Turbo, and with this you just get the token as the additional extender to go into this card. But that does it for combo number 2. Let's move on into our third combo, which is starting going to be a little bit more complex than this one. Alright, so for our third combo, we're going to start with these 2 cards in our hand, which is Mower Machine and Terratop. Now, Terratop is at 1, of course, but it's not really that unlikely to sometimes happen. So this is a combo that I think you should still know, because it's pretty important. But to start this combo off, of course, we're going to special summon the Terratop due to his own effect. We're going to add to our hand the copy of Taketom board, and then we're going to normal summon the, well, Model Machine, and add from our deck to our hand the copy of Rubber Band Plane. Now we're going to special summon the Taketom board and use the effect of Rubber Band Plane to special summon itself, and then we're going to use Taketom board effect to tribute itself and special summon a Red Eye die directly from the deck. This will turn this into a level 2 Synchro, Cork Shooter, summon those 2 back as usual. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to actually basically take this card and turn one of these into a level 4. You don't use this, you turn one of these into a level 4. Let's say we're turning the Marble Machine to a level 4. We're going to take these 2. This goes to the graveyard, this goes into extra deck, and we're going to summon directly from our extra deck the Hagoita. Then what we're going to do is that we're going to take the 2 non-tuners, or should I say non-synchro monsters, and summon from our extra deck the copy of Rubber Band Shooter. Now, just like the first combo, we're going to reveal, or should I say banish the Juji, and then either reveal, add to our hand either the card Turbo or the Dende Daiko Duke, depending on what your opponent chooses. So in this particular case, let's say we just added the Duke. We're now going to normal summon Duke due to the effect of Rubber Band Shooter. I'm going to use Duke and Hagoita as our 2 monsters to summon Crystal Wing. Now we're going to use a Goita effect, and we still control a tuner on our side of the field. We're going to summon a Goita. And now we're going to use Duke effect to banish itself and summon out of your graveyard the copy of Red Eye die. Red Eye die turned the Hagoita into a level 6, and then we're going to synchro summon into our Wing Pegasus Adgnister. And I'm going to take these 2 and synchro summon into Beroni de Fleur, which giving you 2 cards, 3 interruptions, due to the fact that we have a Monster Negate, an Omni Negate, and a spin back into the deck if we need to. But that does it for combo number 3. Let's move on into our 4th combo. Alright, so for our 4th and 5th combo, I'm actually going to kind of just go back a little bit for the previous combos that we did, kind of like going to be the same end boards as like combo number 1 and 2, but with worse hands. And for this particular combo, we're going to end up on the same as the second end board, would open up with a Red Eye die, and any extender. Basically, if you open up with a Takatown it's a little bit worse, so you kind of just want either this or the Griffin Rider. But if you open up with any of these, or should I say Red Eye Die and a Car Turbo or a Griffin Rider, you're fine. Same go, I believe, with Takatown, or should I say not Takatown, Teamndl Daikoduke, but we're actually talking about Red Eye Die specifically for this one. This combo is also a good explanation for people why you should run this card at 2, by the way. So, let's get started with this combo. So, starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Red Eye Die, and we're going to use the effect to special summon the Car Turbo, since we control wind. We're going to link these two off, and we're going to go into a Rubber Band Shooter. Rubber Band Shooter effect, we're going to banish a 6, and then we're going to add to our hand either the Ultra Hound or Terratop. Basically, this is just going to end up on the same end board with both of these. You can even banish a 7 if you prefer that as well, to basically add the Terratop anyway. If you play only one, well, Red Eye Die, good luck getting the Ultra Hound, because that's the one that you want to get. But if you're playing 2 Red Eye Dies, you should be still fine if you just draw into 1. But with both of these, you end up in the same end board. With the Terratop, you just know how to do that. It's just the second end board, or just the second combo. And the Ultra Hound is kind of just the same thing. It's just we're going to use another card, so that's why we're going to go with the Ultra Hound. So we're going to get another normal summon. We're going to go Ultra Hound. We're going to send the Daikoduke to the grave, banish it immediately, summon the Red Eye Die, turn this into a level 2. You know where this is going. Cork Shooter, summon 2 back, 6. These 2, Wind Pegasus Agnister, and of course, we're going to go into the Baron. This is basically, like I said, the second combo, just how you just deal with it if you open up with something like your Red Eye Die in your hand. But that does it for the 4th combo. Now let's move on into the 5th and final combo. Alright, so for our 5th and final combo, I'm going to show you a combo that some people actually might have a little bit of a hard time maybe thinking outside of the box where it comes to the combination of these cards, because when you look at 2 Takatown, you sometimes think to yourself that you cannot do anything. Well, it's actually not the case. Takatown effect to special summon from the deck is not a hard once per turn, to special summon another tuner from the deck. However, the effect that is a hard once per turn is the effect to special summon. So you can still normal summon the first one and then special summon the other one as a follow-up. So for anybody who's just thinking that this is a dead hand, it is not, and I'll show you why. So let's get started. Starting things off, we're going to normal summon the Takatown. We're going to use this effect immediately right now. We're going to go into the copy of our Teamndl Daikoduke, because this card doesn't need basically you to control another wind monster when you tribute it, so it's actually pretty important, so just keep that in mind. Then we're going to use discard effect, since we control wind. We're going to special summon it and then tribute it to summon a Red Eye Die directly from our deck, just to get the good tuners that we need directly from our deck to our side of the field. And then we're going to link these 2 off into our copy of Rubber Band Shooter. Now, in this particular case, when you banish with a Rubber Band Shooter, you have multiple options. You can either banish a 6 and then go either, with a Terratop and, go double Crystal Wing with an Ultra Hound going into the Baron plus an Agnister Wing Pegasus in your graveyard to basically have an Omni Negate and, a kind of interruption in grave. But in this particular case, I'm actually going to banish the 5 to show you what happened when you do that with Marble Machine. And that's why I'm going to reveal Terratop and Marble Machine. Now, Marble Machine is definitely the worst out of the 3, but it's still very important to know, I think, just because sometimes you maybe want to go into that particular case, and I also just want to make this interesting. So we're going to send this to grave and get the Marble Machine. We're going to normal summon the Marble Machine and get to our hand the Car Turbo. Special summon Car Turbo and use these 2. This goes to the extra deck to your copy of Hagoita. Now, we're going to use the effect of, well, Duke Engrave to special summon the Red Eye Die. Red Eye Die effect, turn this into a 2, and yes, you can do that, and we're going to synchro summon into our copy of Cork Shooter, which will summon both of these back. Now, because Red Eye Die cannot go into a 7, unfortunately, this is definitely not going to be the best end board, but you can do something a little bit more flexible here, which is going into maybe turn this into a level 4 if you want to, or should say a level 5 actually, and then go into something specific, which I will show you in a second. So you're basically going to turn this into basically a level 5. You can turn this into a level 5 and then go with these two, and then go Baron plus Stardust Charge Warrior if you want to. But the more better choice to go with is turning this into a 6 and go with these two into your copy of Clearwing Fast Dragon, and then use the effect of Agoita and Grev, special summon, and use these two to go into your copy of Crystal Wing. Now, this is the weird end board, and like, you know, maybe choosing Marble Machine is not the best one, but I wanted to go still with the worst option because it just was interesting to just show you that the existence of Clearwing Fast Dragon is actually not a coincidence. Sometimes you actually need this card for some particular weird hands or options, and sometimes you just want to go to this one because maybe you're dealing with very heavy extra deck issues, and you can just use this card as an option instead if you just don't want to go double Crystal Wing, although maybe double Crystal Wing is still better. But I just wanted to go into this one just because it's really fun. But that does it for the 5th and final combo, and does it for deck profile. Now let's move on into the next deck choices. Alright, so for the next deck choices for the next video, well, we have pretty small ones, things that I want to do. We're going to do the same 3 as before, which are Dark Lords. I forgot what the other 2 are. I don't know why I'm forgetting every single time. But the 4th and final option that I'm going to throw in here is going to be Magistus. So I'm going to do, if you want me guys to do an update for Magistus, that's totally up to you. But it's going to be Dark Lords, Dragunity, the last one I don't remember, and of course Magistus as our options for next video. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you want to see first? But that pretty much does it for the video, and does it for the deck profile as a whole. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, or maybe you specifically just liked the video regardless. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and hopefully see you very soon. This is going to be a little bit of a rough month, at least for me. So, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.